Hello! This is my second video about Ayame's blog, and so I'm going to try to go through as many of the blogs that I can, starting with today and moving backwards. And I'll try to keep this video around 15 minutes. So, let's see. I'm just going to be responding to these. The first one is an important announcement. I have this kitty picture here. So Ayame is doing a talk about his blog on the 30th, which is in just a couple days. If you're in Japan, I hope you can get out to it. But there is a typhoon coming, and so please be safe and be careful. He's going to do the talk anyway, but he's warning everybody. He said it's okay if you can't come or if you need to go home early. And he's also going to be broadcasting it, which was not in the original plan, but he will be putting part of it online and live. So we'll look forward to hearing about that. Maybe a silver lining in these typhoon clouds. Next blog, moving backwards, talking about the iPhone. The size of the iPhone. I'll just go through this. I'll just take a look at this really quickly. He's talking about that the next iPhone is not going to be small. It's going to be big again, probably. We're moving towards bigger phones, which can be a pain for some people. He mentioned that women often have smaller hands, and Ayame is also kind of a smaller person. So that can be troublesome with a big phone. You can't really use it one-handed. But you can see more on the screen. And I would say that also, as a female, something I run into a lot and see a lot of other women complaining about is the pocket problem. Big phone can't fit in your pocket. Women's clothes usually have smaller pockets or even no pockets, which then you just got to put it in your purse anyway. But women's clothes often have smaller pockets on the pants and things for a more sleek appearance. And so big phones become pretty unpractical when you just want to stick the phone in your pocket and walk around. You see people shoving the phone in the side of their yoga pants, or I don't even know, doing all kinds of things, or just with phones that pop out of their pockets all the time, and you end up breaking the screen. So that's where sometimes things like this can be really useful for solving that kind of problem. And this is nice for the bathtub too. So sometimes you can get around not having pockets or not having big enough pockets. So back to the blog. Let's do the next one. Okay, the GPS. Okay, in this next one, Ayame talks about how a smartphone can be used through GPS, which I use it for GPS sometimes. Usually I use a Garmin, but sometimes using it on the phone is actually better because I can plan my route better the way I want to. A lot of times the Garmin doesn't let me avoid highways or something that I might want to do. But it uses up your phone's battery and everything. You can use it, and they're also finding that you can track information about someone's driving using their smartphone. And that could be useful for, for finding someone who's lost, I guess, or for, for helping people. But there's kind of a risk there. You wouldn't really want the police to use it to try to get people on speeding based on their phone, or maybe that wouldn't be accurate. And also, I think you mentioned that, when it gets to the point of someone tracking their girlfriend's traveling or something, You know, just finding where someone is all the time could get a little creepy. So let's check the next one. We have the MP3. This was a fun one, so I'm going to talk about this one a little extra. So it is this week, or this year is the 20th anniversary of the MP3 player. So he talks about the history of mobile music, kind of the first portable Walkman came out in 1979. It was put out by Sony, and so he talks about how music has really changed to something you can take with you anywhere, which is, I think, is a pretty neat subject. You know, before that, you could play it in your house, and of course, long before that, you needed to have the performers actually there to listen to music. But then, when the phonograph and the record player, and even music boxes and things came out, then you could listen at home on your own. Also, the player piano was a big step for that. Because you could play it, or you could play it yourself, or have someone play it. You could use the scrolls inside it to basically have the music programmed onto them, and you could put that through there and have it control the keys. Or you could, and you could just do that for entertainment, or actually people were using that to assist them in learning to play piano, which I think is really interesting. People were putting the player piano scrolls in and having it play for them, and they would maybe do a duet along with it, or follow the keys and learn it themselves, as kind of like how kids nowadays have like a miracle piano and things like that with the keys that light up, and the computer helps them learn to play. Player piano would do that, and there's also player piano sing-along function, basically, which had the words to the song printed on the scroll going backwards. So the family or a group of friends or whatever could gather around the piano and sing along, and kind of like karaoke, but it was actually written on the piano scroll. So that's kind of a little sidetrack there, but I think that's pretty neat history on recorded music. And then we went to portable music, which then you didn't have to haul a piano or a phonograph around with you, and you could put a Walkman in your pocket. First time I remember using a Walkman was when I was in 3rd grade. I asked my parents for I asked my parents for the MC Hammer tape that had the song that was on the soundtrack of the Addams Family. And so I used to walk around listening to, I think I got it for Christmas, and I walked around listening to the MC Hammer tape. And then I also had the Matenrou Opera tape, and would listen to that and sing along to it. Stuff like that. Vivaldi's Four Seasons, listened to that a lot. And then my first MP3 player was probably a Rio player. It was, my parents had actually won a Rio player by collecting a whole lot of Pepsi caps. There was a promotion that Pepsi was doing where they collected caps, and my parents, one of my parents is a college, teaches computer science at a college, and would go around after class and collect all the Pepsi caps that the students left around. So we were able to get a whole bunch of goodies and prizes, and one of those was a Rio player. So I put my whole Guns N' Roses CD on there, and maybe Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, if it fit. I don't remember if the whole thing fit on there. And I remember I took it with me skiing, well, snowblading, which is like skiing but with short little skis. So it's kind of like a cross between skiing and snowboarding, and I thought it was really, really awesome to be able to listen to Guns N' Roses while I was barreling down the mountain. That was really cool. So that was my first experience with MP3. And now, as Ayame mentioned, now we can actually stream music. So the relevance of saving the music in MP3 isn't even as big of a deal, but I think that we never would have gotten to where we are now, being able to stream the music, if we hadn't have been able to put it into MP3 first. And it's still really useful to have MP3 because you're not using data. You're not having to pay for the data to stream or anything like that. You just have the music. And although I haven't done it yet, I really need to put all my CDs into MP3 just for safekeeping, for so they don't get scratched or anything else. Though there are a lot of things I would really wish to have on record or tape still, because I really do like the way that they sound as well. Okay, so back to the next vlog. We've got to hurry up a bit. Sorry, I'm going a little slow here. Okay, this next one is about helping people who are paralyzed to walk using technology, using an implant which sends the electrical impulses wirelessly from the brain. This is very exciting, and it's interesting to me because I actually have a friend whose fiance is paralyzed from the neck down. So this kind of technology could be really awesome for him. He basically, just as Ayame mentioned in the vlog, when the spinal cord is separated, then the body can actually, continue to function, but the brain can't control it. So being able to send those messages, to make some kind of a wireless jump for those messages would be pretty amazing. And then, indeed, it does have some very sci-fi and possibly scary potential, right? Because then where do we get to the point of controlling someone else's body with your mind or something like that? So that could be very interesting possibility, something that could be a huge, just a huge help for people who need to get control of their bodies and walk and, get their life back in a way that they couldn't before. But there's definitely some interesting risks there too. And then maybe not necessarily a bad thing either. That could be something that there would be potential for people to communicate or to connect with each other in a positive way. So very interesting stuff with that technology. Next one is about electricity. Talking about not being able to save the electricity. I think that there is a way of putting it in capacitors, but at some point, the capacitors or the batteries, they're very difficult to produce, they're expensive, So that can be very complicated. And it just mentions the earthquake in Hokkaido, and that the power went out during that. He also mentions how sometimes solar power has had to be stopped because they were actually getting too much power and didn't have a way of storing it. Okay, the next one is about copywriting choreography. There is a story of someone taking somebody to court about using the same sequence of hula dance moves. So they're saying that the sequence of the moves was kind of their creativity, their composition. The moves themselves are pretty standard for hula. But so the question was, is the rearranging, is the arrangement of the moves something that can be copyrighted? This seems kind of difficult to say, and personally, I disagree with the person who says that there's no creativity there. There's obviously creativity, but I think that the question would be if that's proprietary or not. And really, for me, it kind of comes down to a question of if they are actually profiting from it. Is this person profiting from the composition of the moves, or are they profiting from their performance of the moves? Are they marketing it as something that they composed, or are they just marketing it as a dance that they're performing? And again, as Ayame mentioned here, this happens in music where you have a particular guitar riff or something. Can you really say that that's something that another song can't use? Or would you consider it like kind of a shout out to the other song? For example, like Vanilla Ice using the beat from Under Pressure by Queen. Is that copyright infringement, or is that just appreciation and inspiration from another musician? And I think when it comes down to some of this, it has to do, creativity is important, but a lot of what happens with these things is also performance. It's also brand and entertainment and all those kind of things. And an interesting example of this kind of copyright stuff is an example that my mom told me about. My mom is a writer, and there was a big scandal in the independent writing community about the word cocky. Now, cocky means overconfident. But the first part of the word refers to a rooster or refers to a part of the male anatomy. So there was a big scandal in the writing community, particularly writers of erotica books. That there was a particular erotica writer who wanted to copyright the word cocky because they named one of their characters this and thought it was a cute reference to a male body part and also to a confident character. But can you copyright a word that is standard, one single standard dictionary word? Most people said no. And I believe the case was settled that it was not possible to copyright this single word. For example, Apple is a brand, but they can't copyright the word apple and get money when people sell the fruit. So that kind of thing is just going a little too far with copyright. Okay, in the next one, this actually kind of connects with what I just spoke about. Ayame talks about independent publishing, print on demand. He says Amazon has a print on demand service. He talks about how this could also apply to CDs and other things, but the role of the kind of middleman, or the people who've been involved up until now in the process, still has some meaning. So that's something we have to look at. There's still some value to those things. And I would agree, although it's a little complicated. For people who are doing these things independently, usually they can't afford to they can't afford to get it published, or they were not able to get it published in the past. Before there was independent publishing, I know my mom, for example, sent her book to several publishers back in the 1980s, and went through the work of printing it out from the floppy disk and putting it in a big envelope and sent it in, and they read like 2 pages of it and send it back. And that happens to a lot of people. And I imagine the same thing happens with the music industry. So being able to put stuff out yourself is really cool, but it also floods the market. So people don't, the consumer has to make a lot more decisions now. They have a smorgasbord available to them. I mean, with the internet, with many things, the internet makes a lot of things into more of a smorgasbord for us, which can help us to find the ideal things that are going to be great for us, or can cause us to become morbidly obese as far as our time management. So I think one of the roles of those middlemen and things is to help sort through some of that. Another important role is editing. Some people are great storytellers, but not excellent at editing. Sometimes the opportunity to do it yourself makes us think that we can be good at every aspect, which we can always improve at every aspect, but people are unique, and there are people who are better at one aspect and people who are better at another aspect, and that's why teamwork is so important. So, in my mom's case, she has gotten me and my brother to edit for her. She's paid someone to look at it and edit it before. But those services are important. And even now we see more books coming out with errors, and even news articles online are coming out with grammatical errors and things, which, because it's just easy to hit enter and post it, and there's such a flood of material that it's just important to get it out right now. Even news companies are not spending the time in the resources to have somebody carefully edit things. Another aspect is promotion. If you're trying to spend time being creative and making your art, then trying to promote it can be very difficult, both in a time sense and in just where your head is at. So I think that can be a big struggle for people, and another reason why these sort of middlemen in different services are still important. The publishers, record companies, and so on. These are still important. But at the same time, it's exciting to be able to put something out on one's own. So that will be interesting to see how that continues in the future. And okay, I'm going to go through this one quickly. I think we're just going to get through one page of blogs today. This one's about manga that people don't want made into a movie or don't want animated. Well, that's just one I would say, well, what do you think? I think everyone has different opinions on this. Recently I listened to a book. Oh, there are my kids. They're playing a video game. So recently I listened to a book on tape with my kids. We listened to the whole book. It was 6 hours worth of reading. Oops. Pause this for a second. Okay, I'm back. So, yes, we recently listened to a book on tape, which was about 6 hours, and I had a good discussion with my kids about how that would be different from why and how that would be different from the movie, which was like an hour and a half long. And it really makes you realize how much has to be cut or changed to fit it into a movie. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different way of experiencing the story, or a different twist on the story. So, if there's a story that I love, experiencing it more is always a great thing, whether it's through seeing a different version of it as an anime or a live action film, or seeing a tribute to it in song or art or anything like that. Unless it's horrible, and then that just is not unless somebody just did a really crummy job of adapting it, which sometimes happens. And then you just kind of shake your head or laugh at it or whatever. But I think it's great for people to make more creative works. Okay, next one. We're almost coming up on 30 minutes here. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm just going to try and make this short, but we are getting through a lot of blogs here. So this one was about going across America on Google Maps. Can you go all the way across the country on Google Maps? Yes, you can. And somebody has taken 3 years, bit by bit, working their way across all the streets. And we're not just talking like looking at the map from above. We're talking like walking on Street View all the way across the country. So that's a pretty neat way to do it. It brings up that this is kind of just a different, slow-paced way to experience the world through the internet. And he talks about maybe going virtual reality with it, which I think would be a really cool way to to make that something people could really enjoy. Or more people could enjoy it. Obviously, whoever did this for 3 years probably enjoyed it. Well, I'm on the second page now because I wanted to sneak back here and look at this one about karaoke. This is another copyright story. This is, he's talking about how even using even recording the karaoke machine's music is still kind of pirating the music that belongs to the company which produced the karaoke music. Gee, this gets very difficult in these kind of situations. Personally, I think if I have incorporated my voice or something like that into something that I'm posting on YouTube, or posting video that I'm posting for friends, it's no longer the quality of the original, so it doesn't replace the original. I would never sell it that way. I wouldn't. I think it would be illegal, or should be illegal, to sell a copy of yourself singing over the karaoke, or yourself singing with the actual musician's instruments playing of the original song playing in the background. There's a way to edit out the voice and just have the original instrumentation and sing over it. To sell that, I think, should be illegal. Simply to post that online, I think I would consider it a good way to promote the music, or just to have fun. Because I don't think it no longer sounds the same as the original product, and you would not be able to. Someone would not be able to take that and burn it to a CD or burn it to their MP3 player and say that they have the music now and listen to the music all the time. Like if it has my voice in it now, it's not like they can just download it and put it on their MP3 player and be listening to the real album. So in my opinion, that kind of makes that different. But I understand that that may be something that is actually not not fully legal, or it's something that can be pulled if the record company chooses to say that they don't want that. But yeah, I think getting people involved with the music, getting people to post karaoke or post fan art and things like that online is a way to keep the excitement going for the band, keep the excitement about the music vibrant and active. So that's why I think that kind of thing, even though there may be the record companies may be allowed to say no to that kind of thing, I think probably that they would choose to allow it most of the time because of that. But personally, I usually, a lot of times I just end up singing without the music. Actually, if I'm singing, if I get excited and I sing too loud, I can't hear the music anyway. And so then I'll get to like a part where I take a breath and suddenly I'll be able to hear the music and I'm in the wrong spot. because my sense of rhythm isn't that great, and so I tend to sing too slow compared to what the real music sounds like. It does help to give me a cue as to the right key to be in to start it off. After that, I usually stay pretty consistent, but singing with the music can be hard because I can't hear it. So that can be kind of challenging. If there's people, like if I'm singing with people who are actually there playing on a piano and playing on, you know, on percussion and everything else, I can usually hear it just fine. But if I'm just have it playing from my computer speakers, I end up drowning it out and I don't know what's going on. Okay, and then I'm just skipping around a little bit now. I'm going to go to this one about the parallel world without the internet. So I think that's really interesting. This is something I think about a lot because I also was born in a time when the internet was not such a big deal. As I mentioned, one of my parents is a computer science professor, and so we had the internet pretty much as soon as it was out there. We were having little like Quake LAN parties in our house and gaming together, but the internet itself was something I wasn't really allowed to go on that much because, you know, along with being knowing a lot about computers meant that my parents knew a lot about the dangers of computers for a young kid like me, and you know, of the internet for a young kid like me. So I wasn't really, you know, we had, I think it was called like Prodigy or something, with some kind of chat room that existed, but we were just allowed to play like you know, learning games like Reading Rabbit and things like that, or you know, some of the first-person shooter video games when we got a little older, and those, you know, just some video games and things. But that's kind of off on a tangent though. So as far as a parallel world without the internet, I agree. I think Ayame is right on here. You know, there would be change. You know, we wouldn't have Amazon selling things. Music would still probably be going through CDs, and the TV would still be a really big thing. Probably we would still have music on MTV and VH1 and things like that. So I think that would be a very interesting world. I think there would be a lot of phone chat rooms and things like that that we saw before internet, before the internet was really a thing. There were, you know, still like call lines, and you know, there would be a lot of using the phone. Well, which we're doing a lot now. We're using the phone, but we would be using it as phone and not internet. And last but not least, well, there's actually two more that I wanted to look at. Okay, so the voting, electronic voting, I think would be a really great thing. I think would love to see incorporated with electronic voting would be something to links where you could get educated about the issues, about the candidates in an unbiased as possible of a way, or even go to their website and see what they have to say or whatever. Because getting more people to vote is important, but getting people to educate themselves on the issues, getting educated voters is much more important than simply getting people to run willy-nilly into the ballot box and put a check by something. That can be, or onto their phones if we're doing it electronically. We really don't want a bunch of people who have no idea about the issues to just Christmas tree it, as we say, to just, you know, pick whatever. that, of course, it would just put some randomness into it, but that could also be people who have been duped into voting for something that is not what they actually want. A lot of times you'll get these kind of warnings before a vote, before an election period, saying a vote on this issue appears to help the environment but will actually hurt the environment, or something like that. So that kind of thing is very important. It's very important to know what you're voting for rather than just going to vote. I'm not saying that to dissuade anyone from voting. You should, definitely educate yourself and get out there and vote. But don't just pick whatever. And the other one was Unko. So the other one was about toilets, and the only thing I wanted to say to that was, well, I actually think that the toilets, I think that the Japanese toilets are pretty cool, and there's been a move in the West now to use that kind of position more, because medical science is saying that it's actually a healthier position for you to get the movement going, to be in the crouching position. So the company, there's a company which sells the squatty potty, which is like a footstool that goes around the base of the toilet to make it, to put your body in a position more similar to the Japanese toilet position, to an in-floor toilet position. And so over here they're selling these. People are opening their mind to the possibility that the squatting position may actually be healthier. So, but Ayame mentioned that some people are not comfortable using those and will actually hold it in until they can get to a place like their own home or whatever that does not have, that has a throne style toilet. There are also some places in the world where there's some major problems with toilet issues. India, I've read an article that in India there's a lack of public toilets, and a lot of people are getting sick because they're either having to go outside or they're just holding it all day. In particular, women, who it's not as easy to just relieve yourself, sneak off and relieve yourself, and it's not as safe for women. So that's a big problem in some places. But as for Japan, I think the squatting potty is actually supposed to be better for you. But food may be an issue. I'm not drinking enough water. People need to drink a lot of water. Ayame was always taking photos with his water. I have some water here too. Barley is good instead of just rice. Have barley sometimes. It's good for you. Stuff with fiber. So that's about it on that. Let's see. So we wound it up. We finished it up for today with the poo-poo post, and and we will finish up with something fun. Thank you so much for watching. We actually had 9 views last week, which I'm really excited about. So again, this ended up being really long, but I hope this makes good, just sort of in the background thing for you, and maybe you can practice English listening to this, or just get some thoughts going about whatever, about all the things Ayame is blogging about. I hope you can get out to see Ayame's talk. I hope it goes really well. And I want to do a fun thing, which is I'm going to sing a little bit of the keyboard from a song, from a Matenrou Opera song, and I want you to guess in the comments what song it is. This one should be pretty easy. So, So tell me what you think it is, and have a great week.